success is absolutely incorrect.
I call Marama Davidson.
Firstly, for clarity, Madam Chair, I'd like to ask if I am able to transverse both the social development part and the housing department in one debate. Thank you, Madam Chair. My goodness, because there's a lot to transverse, to be honest. And they're all connected, and this is the thing. So in the appropriations in the annual review for the previous year, what we saw from this previous national government was running our services to the ground, and that came through in the appropriations in terms of putting surplus before services, putting a reach for a budget surplus before ensuring we have got sound, strong, adequate services to make sure our people are well, to make sure they can live in an affordable, safe home that's not going to make them sick, to make sure that people have enough to live decent lives if they are going to a work and income office to try and get the support they need. And in the appropriations, we actually saw the previous national government and the way that they distributed investments in resources, upholding the degradation of people. And that's what came through in the appropriations. So I want to pick up in the previous year, in fact, early this year, and from the last year, we saw an example of how those appropriations played out with a report from the Manukau AUT, a professor who let us know that the transience, the situation of people having to move is appalling and disgusting for this country. For instance, women in particular are impacted on. Women with children are impacted on. Māori and Pacific women were moving up to 7 times in 3 years from home to home because the previous appropriations have not made a difference in terms of making sure that people can stay put, that the supply, that investing in enough state housing, especially while we're in the middle of a homelessness crisis, that investing in state housing, that making sure that we are building enough homes to meet the demand of what is happening, none of that had happened. And for a long time it hadn't happened. And in actual fact, I want to stipulate again, this previous national government left a shortfall of 71,000 houses nationwide, 45,000 short in Auckland, but here's the thing, here's the rub, that shortfall grew from nearly zero from nearly 10 years ago. So that shortfall continued in the previous appropriations, and the annual review did not make a meaningful impact on that. And what did that look like on the ground? It looked like people lining up outside of work and income. In my community, in Manurewa and elsewhere around the country and in Auckland, a young mum with her newborn baby who got into that line at 7 a.m. in the morning in the middle of winter purely to try and get extra for what she needed because of high housing costs that the annual appropriations did not sort out. And what must it take? Can any of us in here relate to what it must take for a young mum with a newborn baby to get up and line up at 7 a.m. in the morning to try and get some help for what she needs? That's well beyond what I think it was Mr Tim McIndoe referred to as dependency. That's us gone wrong. That's what that is. We didn't sort that out, and certainly the previous annual appropriations did not sort that out at all. So we're going to change all of that, because first and foremost, this is a government that understands that it is the well-being of our people which will create a strong economy. And those are the appropriations that we are putting in place. We're also, I'm pleased to say, I am proud to lead with Minister Phil Twyford. One of the areas where we can improve home ownership is with having a rent-to-own or progressive home ownership scheme, which is part of the Greens agreement with Labour. And I'm proud to say that those are the sorts of appropriations that should be being made. That those are the sorts of that's the agenda that we need to see in these annual reviews. And with this government understanding what is important to get our economy, our societies and our environment right, that we put those at the centre rather than surplus at all costs, which is what we saw in the 9 years, but especially in the previous annual review of appropriations. So I'm proud to stand here today and again lay that commitment in the ground that this government is turning the degradation on its head, and we will be committed to putting in place the real appropriations that will make that work. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I call Simon O'Connor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd be quite pleased, I think, to actually bring this discussion back to the appropriations.